Hi, Embracing Only podcast family. This is Archita. We are introducing impact moments, actionable insights that highlight the best and powerful learning moments and wisdom from our past episodes of incredible guests. In this highlight reel, you'll hear leadership lessons from a combat veteran, taking action to be anti-racist, mastering workplace negotiations, leveraging your uniqueness for success. We'll take a topic and break it down in a short, snappy episode. So click on the link in the show notes to continue listening to these impact moments with our amazing guests. So I have a question here, Mary. So you work with all these organizations. They have these folks who take these amazing courses that you have. We put the links for everyone listening in the show notes and in the blog as well. So you can go take these courses. Highly recommend it. So you have these people take these courses. You have these brands that welcome you up on stage. But once those camera turns off, how do we get these individuals and organizations to see the value of cultural humility, racial equity, and social impact in the confines of a team, in the confines of a corporate organization?
I think the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to base this on something very fresh. So yesterday I was at a training session, and I'm going to base this on that.
Yeah.
First thing we need to do is that we need to welcome people who are not represented into these spaces. And this is very important for us because usually, especially in the Nordic region, the people who do this kind of work are usually women, and usually the women are white.
Yeah.
So we need to change how we do things, because if we are trying to make people understand something that is new to them, then we need to use different methods, and we have to be as authentic as possible. So in my case, yesterday, I did something different. We discussed with the client, I'm going to come in, but we were not going to start with anti-racism work because that is a bit more deeper. We discussed, you know what? They've never even had a training session on DEI. So let's start from the basics. Let's discuss everything. Let's discuss all the different dimensions and the diversity. What is diversity? What is this? And then there's actually a very important thing that I did. So before I even started doing the definitions, I had the information for everyone. And I said, this is why you're here. And I went point after point without first describing anything, just telling them, why are we doing DEI training? Because we need it. Why do we need it? Because if we don't do this, then this happens. And I use practical examples with my clients, and I tell them, if we don't do this, we're going to end up here. And I say, for example, this is this company, they haven't done this, this is what happens. So this is what they need to understand. They need to understand, number one, why are they doing the DEI training? Why are they even having this discussion? How does it affect our society? How does it affect our brands? And how does it even affect how organizations partner with other organizations? Because you know what? If you are an organization that doesn't care about people, marginalized people, guess what? That's not going to be the same reality for the next organization. It's not going to be the same reality for organizations that want to partner with you. So we just simply need to educate them. We need to go into this like we are going into a classroom. This is why we're doing this, because of this. If you don't do this, then this is going to happen. So even though we are not talking about the business case for diversity, we are talking about every single way an organization is going to affect the people within the organization, the people externally, and all the people who want to partner with them if they don't take this seriously.
I saw recently in the news where I think on TV, there was a comedian or a woman comedian in the UK who was asking a question to an individual of the global majority and asking basically in the way to say that, okay, educate me. What does this mean? And this individual, the person from the global majority, was like, no, you should do the work, figure it out. But there's an absolute time and place for that. There is actually lots of times and places for that, because there's a true fact about unpaid labor in this DE&I business. But this individual was like, no, I'm really curious. I do not understand this. And so we have lost the ability to have conversations wherein we can start at the basics without judgment and in a place of a two-way conversation, and not didactic in a way wherein the other person just feels belittled or stupid even for not even knowing this, right? So how can leaders when they bring in someone like yourself, how can they create these spaces where there are individuals at all different levels of understanding, bring them together so it feels safe to have these conversations, knowing that this is a journey. Like no one goes on the other end and is like, I'm a gold star, gold medal, anti-racist now,
Yeah.
you know?
So myself, how I did, and I'm going to again go back to what I did yesterday.
Sure.
In the fundamentals and the basics of DEI. What I did is that after I don't make it like a normal, ordinary classroom where I'm just talking and talking for 10 hours. What I do is give the definitions, tell them why we're here, and then I give them an exercise. And then the exercise is about people speaking to each other. And I tell them, turn around to the person near you.
Yeah.
The person can let you know if they are marginalized or not, but I want you to ask the question, if you feel unsure whether you are marginalized or not, I want you to ask the person near you, do my opinions on racism matter? Do my opinions on ageism matter? Do my opinions on gender equity matter? And I encourage them, have this conversation, because I'm not going to be here later. You'll have to be in the spaces with these people. And I want you to normalize having this conversation, because they don't have to be scary. So they turn to each other. At first, they're like, okay, this is a new thing. But then I see them warming up and I'm walking around the room and I'm like, wow, this is really good. And they start to open up, and then you keep talking about different things, different concepts, and then you give them another exercise and you tell them, okay, this is what we need to speak about. And then after they stop speaking, then I come into the entire space and I talk to people and I tell them, okay, these are the answers. Because sometimes I have questions. These are the answers. This is how you do this. This is how you apologize. This is how you handle a person who comes to you telling you have been marginalized. So having these interactions and making them as real as possible. This is how you make them say, okay, this is something normal. It's something I will discuss with a leader next to me or someone at home. So just normalizing conversations and allowing people to make mistakes and to make guesses and even to be unsure.
I hope everyone listening just feels like their shoulders drop down a little bit, right? Because we're showing up in these spaces and it's charged. In 2020, when we were starting to have some of these conversations, a lot of us were doing work in organizations for decades before that. But we were openly starting to have conversations at the aftermath of George Floyd and others. And when we were having these conversations at that time, people were coming in from a perspective of, oh my gosh, like I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to say something wrong. I have the one person of color on my team. We let them educate us on what's the right and wrong thing to say. This person of color could identify as a Hispanic woman that knows nothing about Black culture. Doesn't matter. We're going to lean on her, which is not fair to any party, right? But with what you just said, I think there's so much power to it, which is how can we normalize having those conversations where you feel like you can truly be curious and explore versus having conversations that feel charged with the need to know the answer.
Yes, exactly. And this is what when people get to that place because they do not have support. So if the only place, the only source of information you have is the internet, but you're working in an organization with lots of people, I don't think it's enough for an organization to think, okay, they can go learn by themselves. We don't need to do anything. Because they spend 7 hours, 8 hours in this space with you. So why wouldn't you give them the skills to communicate with each other? They need to make each other feel safe. When they go out and they're presenting you as a brand, they need to make the people there feel safe. And they will also want to be safe. And this is why I think organizations need to do something so people stop feeling so scared about things that are unknown to them. So they need to do this in spaces where they are safe, and in spaces where they are already familiar with these people around them. Have conversations and encourage people to have those conversations. And while you do that, have people who are experts or people who understand how this works so that they're able to assist them.
Yes, I think that's so important. You need to have those experts to help facilitate that safety, because you can't just assign it as a side project to the only woman on the team or the only person of color on the team, whatever intersection you want to pick. It's just not right. So talking about that, I hear a lot, I'm not racist. Okay, great. And so we start with this one, I'm not racist, which is not the same as being anti-racist.
Yes.
And so just in the spirit of like curiosity, learning, education for the folks here on the call, and I would highly encourage you, go take the courses, go educate yourself on your own terms, but how can we help leaders adopt that learning and understanding of being an anti-racist? And this is a huge question, but if you were to not to simplify something that's super complicated, but how do we understand anti-racism versus just I'm not a racist?
Well, the first thing I would ask someone is that how does your being not a racist benefit a society that is having racism issues based on race and racism? How does that help us? Because we do have issues. It's amazing to know you are not racist, but how does that solve this issue as a person who's part of this society? It doesn't. So you need to be anti-racist. There needs to be action. There needs to be commitment. There needs to be education and learning. Because then if you're just not racist, you're selfish. It doesn't benefit.
Oh, yes.
How does it, I just ask them, how does that benefit me? How does that benefit me as a person who's racialized as an African woman? How does that benefit a person who's racialized as an Asian? It doesn't benefit anyone. So what do you want to do? Now we know you're a nice person. You are not racist. Can you be anti-racist? Take the next step.
Yes, gosh. And that's where the cookie crumbles for most. And you spoke about this when you said talk is cheap, action is everything. I love this. It's like a quote that's going to have to go up on my wall.